Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we have the perfect car for the perfect day. This is a 1957 Porsche 356 Speedster, the top-down, chopped windshield version of Porsche's very first car. And these cars on the market still sell for, $400,000+, depending on their configurations, their originality, their restoration levels, all these things. It's amazing that a car like this, in a world where even muscle cars are starting to become a little passé, people are growing out of these phases, the 356 remains a steady gold standard in the market. People have not shied away from these, and you'll find these 356s in all types of collections. You'll find Speedsters in amongst brand new supercars, but you'll also find them in the old antique style situations that they seemingly belong, but there's something about the driving experience of these Speedsters that really just encapsulates the joy of driving. So I'm going to take you out in this one. It's obviously been restored. I'm starting with the front and trunk lid up because I want to show you around what we look for when we look for originality. We're hunting for matching numbers. So one of the first things you're going to hunt down, you're going to come through here, and right there we see 82284, okay? So this is where we can start to poke around and find out what is original to the car. Because in here, look at that. 284, okay? We'll look at the fuel sender as well. People are into that. And then around back, through this grille, we'll see 284 right in there. So now we know that the hood and this deck lid are correct. These match the car. These were not stolen from somebody else. So we've got originality there. You'll pull off these door cards, and then we can play the numbers game with the engine. There's a number down here. That's your engine number. Then there's a couple other numbers here, here, and here. So all of these little things kind of add up. You can check underneath. You'll see the transmission number as well. And they start to tell the story about what this car is and if it is authentic. Okay, the other side of this is wheels for 356s can go for really big money. In fact, we just sold a set of Rudge wheels for a 356 on Bring a Trailer for $22,500. Originality on these is important as well, and you'll get all kinds of different numbers on the wheel, but what we really want to check out is down here. You'll see a, 1057. So we know that this is an October 1957 wheel, and basically you just pop off those hubcaps and check around, see that that adds up to an original setup. And if you want to go really crazy, these bezels will have an SWF number. These ones, we don't see that on there. That's okay. Sometimes you don't find that. And then over here, you've got the Hella number, that K1431 on the shine down light. So you just look for all these little things. And then we play the game of like, what do we tolerate? What don't we tolerate? And what does that mean for the value of a car? Now this one is outfitted with its typical 1600 4-cylinder flat 4 pushrod engine. This is the standard. You've got downdraft carbs, and this is what a typical Speedster engine bay should look like. However, when you get into the 7-figure levels of 356s, you'll find a 4-cam Carrera engine in that. And that's what you would have seen in a 550 Spider or a 904. So the Porsche world is great because you can find all these cool mismatched things that sometimes add up to a ton of value, because who thought you'd put a 4-cam engine in one of these guys? But they did. And this is the thing. Scarcity, rarity, that is the name of the game when it comes to these cars. But upgrades are okay. Now, one item that I always appreciate when it is upgraded is the brakes. It's fine to have a lovely original Speedster on fully original drums. They work fine. The cars have somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 horsepower. They're usually fine. However, it does inspire confidence to convert like this one to disc brakes, at least in the front. This one has drums in the rear. And the thing is, when people go and spend big money converting to Wilhoit engines or even Polo engines from, let's say, Rod Emery's cars, that's when you really do need to take into consideration the brakes, because if you have an extra like 50 or 60 horsepower in your Wilhoit and you're on original drums, slowing the car down can get a little scary. Now this one was obviously loved. There's a couple little indications that it did the California Melee. That sticker says 2018 as a participant. This one down here says 2021. I don't know if it did it as well in 2021 or if it just showed up, but it's always nice to see that these cars can exist in a world where people still appreciate them and they can go on rallies. Right now the California Melee is going on, and it's incredible because you'll have the levels of cars of like 5 or 6 Ferrari 250 TDFs, and then you'll have people running in Speedsters, and they are totally appropriate cars. And these are such good Grand Tours. They have reasonable luggage space, and they're fun to drive, and they're not cramped. Oddly enough, these little bathtub Porsches, they're very large inside, so larger people can fit in them. The doors open and close in a lovely fashion. Now, obviously, this one's been restored. We have experienced fully original cars, and that's when it gets exciting because you get to see what it would have felt like from the factory to open and close these doors. Now, most restoration shops do a pretty darn good job of making that happen, but sometimes, this is the thing, sometimes these cars, they just look too good. When you can tell, like, when something's been like a little over restored, when it just looks a little too good. And it's always fun to see a fully original car with all its cracking paint and kind of marbling and stuff. That just always does it for me. But the ability to get in a car like this and just drive and kind of drive worry-free. So I'm going to show you what it's like to drive one of these on a perfect spring day. We've got our key here on the right. Give a little bit of throttle, and then I'll push in and turn. And these cars typically don't have a choke, but they do have a hand throttle, which most are disconnected. It's pretty rare that I experience one of these where like the hand throttle is actually functional. 911s had this, early 911s as well, but they were on the floor. But essentially what it does is it just holds open the throttle and you would just pull out and turn. And that way you could hold, maybe 1,500 or 2,000 revs just to keep it running while it warms up a little bit. The 911s, like I said, were on the floor, and then you just slowly push it down and then hope it idles, there you go. This one has 19,694 miles on the clock. Our handbrake, or parking brake, is down here, and we have floor-mounted pedals, just like what we're familiar with. They're offset a bit to the right, so it does feel a little funny that throttle often feels like it's kind of going into the passenger compartment. And you've got a 4-speed manual gearbox. Some people change these, they re-gear them. For this, it works just great. To pop the deck lid, pull that. There it is. Straight out these dual center exhausts. And these things just run like a top. There is a small level of safety in the car. A lot of people fit different types of belts to these things. And then we'll close this door. Oh, so good. Everything's raw. You don't have ABS, obviously. You don't have traction control. You don't have power steering. You are operating the car through and through. And I think that is what continues to attract people to these cars, because they're also so inoffensive. Look at our little sunbather over here having a good day. They're so inoffensive. If I'm driving in a 911, sometimes people, you'll get a thumbs up here and there, but sometimes people don't really think so much of what I'm doing. They look at me like they're gonna flip me off or something. And in this car, people will wave to you because it just evokes happiness and joy. People love the 356. There's something especially about a Speedster. It's like a kid seeing a face smile, like a baby seeing a smile. They're gonna smile back. Okay, that was a late blinker, man. Oh my goodness, you can't make this shit up. But that's a great reminder that we drive very, very, very defensively in these cars, because we can't afford to take a hit in them. they're historically important and also like nicely restored. Someone put a lot of love in it. And the other side is like, I don't want to get injured, but you'll notice that nobody pays any attention when they're driving, and you can't get angry. You just have to accept the level of incompetence that you're going to encounter on public roads. But it doesn't mean that we can't think ahead and be smarter than the enemies who are on their cell phones and playing with their infotainment screens. The other thing you'll notice, there's no windows on these cars. I mean, there are, but they're posts. These are only used when you're, in inclement weather or on the highway for a long time, I suppose, but you probably wouldn't do that. But yeah, you insert these in like a Gen 1 Viper. These cars are great movie cars too. I mean, they're historically relevant with Steve McQueen and Harper, and even in Top Gun. This is what Charlie drove. She had a 356 convertible, and it's just some level of like, it's weird. In Harper, it seemed a little ragtag, like he's driving this sort of like ratty 356, even though it's really not that long after the car would have come out. Whereas in Top Gun, it's a real personality trait, and it kind of shows a little bit of class. But because of that, there's just a 356 in a movie for everybody. It's an odd sense of accomplishment when you drive these cars, just because they are really rewarding. And when you kind of bond with it a little bit, it all settles out into an experience where you're like, oh, I understand what you need. And when I give you what you need, you give me what I need. And it's very symbiotic. There is definitely a learning curve if you're not used to driving sort of, and I use this term affectionately, like slow cars. Because you're gonna have to drag that clutch when you're going up a hill. You're gonna have to be patient with shifts in an old gearbox. I mean, sure, it's probably been rebuilt and all that good stuff, but the mechanics of all of this are very old school, and they do not want to be rushed. They do not want to be thrashed, but they do appreciate a tender touch with a bit of force. So I hope this little drive encapsulates a little bit of the thrill and joy that is a 356, and especially the Speedster. This car was originally kind of imagined by Max Hoffman in order to get a California car that made sense for a top-down, always sunny kind of LA vibe. And it works everywhere. Who doesn't love this? This is going to be a joy wherever you are, as long as you're encountering lovely weather. So I'm gonna go bring this thing back to Bond Group. Had a lovely day driving this thing and photographing it. It's just, man, this is good therapy. If you need a car that's kind of no frills, you got too much money burning a hole in your pocket, or you need to like get away from the supercars because you keep getting speeding tickets, this will fit in just fine. So thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.